Hello and everyone. Thank you for watching IndiaMoney.com. My name is Vivek Bhaskar. On this edition of IndiaMoney.com, I will be talking to you about tax planning. So what exactly is tax planning? But before that, let us talk about taxes. What exactly is our tax system and what are the different aspects affiliated to it? Now, before we talk about tax system, we need to know that tax system existed even during the ancient times when kings of those days imposed taxes over the fellow civilians and traders as well. In the modern era, tax can be defined as a certain fee or charge imposed by the government on individuals as well as business firms. This contributes to the state revenue. There are different types of taxes. We have direct taxes as well as indirect taxes. So direct taxes are taxes which are imposed directly on the individuals and firms, as the name itself implies. A perfect example of direct taxes would be income tax, which is imposed directly on the individual who is earning income from a specific firm or organization. Another type of tax is indirect tax, which is actually a certain amount which is added to the cost of goods, services, or transactions that happen in the market. Now, unlike direct taxes, indirect taxes are imposed on the consumers and not the producers. The GST, or the goods and services taxes, which were imposed by the central government of India, is a perfect example of indirect taxes. Now, in order to tax planning, well, we should focus heavily on direct taxes because we are planning for taxes on individual basis or company basis. So, which are the different aspects to tax planning? But before that, we need to know that tax planning is only one of the components. We have tax avoidance as well as tax evasion being other components to the tax system. Now, what's the difference between the three? Only if you could understand tax planning, tax evasion as well as tax avoidance, you will have a real understanding of the tax system. In tax planning, we ensure that we pay taxes towards the government without breaking any laws. Okay, we ensure that there is, of course, a minimum tax liability without breaking any laws. But in case of tax avoidance, we use the loopholes present inside the legal framework and the legal procedures, and we exploit them further to ensure that we have minimum tax liability. Now, in case of tax evasion, it's a complete breach of law because we end up breaking the law in order to ensure that there is minimum tax liability, which is a criminal offense. So, to put it in a simple way, tax planning is a method of ensuring minimum tax liability by maintaining the law. On the other hand, tax avoidance is ensuring minimum tax liability by bending the law, and tax evasion is nothing but ensuring minimum tax liability by breaking the law. In tax planning, there are different aspects or different benefits provided to us by the government to ensure that we pay taxes. At the same time, we stay within the framework, and also we have a limited tax liability towards the government. One good example of that is if you are a business firm, if you could invest in special economic zones provided by the government, then you can enjoy tax exemptions. So tax exemption is nothing but there is absolutely no tax imposed on that particular income that is earned to that particular mean. Another example is income earned through farming. Government has given serious tax exemptions towards income earned through farming. That is another example. So annual income minus tax exemption will give you the gross annual income. And you could reduce it further. There is something called tax deduction, which is another tax benefit provided by the government. So what exactly is tax deduction? If you're an individual, you must be investing on insurances and other schemes and fixed deposits, which is necessary for you. So government understands this and ensures that these investments also waived off from your annual income. So if your annual income minus tax exemption gives you the gross annual income minus tax deduction will give you your net annual income. So it's this income that is liable, or you are liable to pay the government so much of money as tax based on your net annual income. Now here there will be further rebates if you fall under certain category, because depending on the income, you will have different percentages of taxes to be paid. So that is nothing but rebate. So if you belong to the 0 to 2.5 lakh category, well, perhaps you don't have to pay any taxes. But if you fall between the 2.5 to 5 lakh, it's different subject altogether. And from 5 lakh category to 10 lakh is different tax amount that has to be paid, different percentage. So this is nothing but the tax rebate system. So that further minimizes your tax liability if you could ensure that your income is lower than what is needed. A simple example is if your annual income comes up to 5,20,000, if you're after all the deduction exemption, if you could use your exemptions and deductions to take it below 5 lakh, well, then you belong to 2.5 to 5 lakh category. So this is nothing but a tax rebate system. Now, other than the three, there's something called tax relief, which is mainly applied towards the business firms, because there are certain investments they have to make in order to ensure the smooth running of the business firm. Transportation expenses could be a perfect example of this. So if that happens, then government could waive off these expenses as well, which is nothing but tax relief as well. So if we could ensure that if you consider all the tax relief measures, the tax rebate measures, the tax exemption, as well as tax reduction measures for your tax planning, well, this would ensure that you will have to pay a minimum amount to the government as state revenue, to the government state revenue as tax. So that's how exactly you plan your tax, and that is a concept of tax planning. In order to look into overall understanding of tax planning, let's make a further video on this on the next edition of IndiaMoney.com. So thank you for watching IndiaMoney.com. This edition, very soon, the next edition, I will talk to you in detail about tax planning. Thank you for watching.